respected Mr. Narayana Murthy, friends from the media, clients of Global Adjustments, and well-wishers from the Bangalore community, I welcome you today for this small but important milestone in the journey of Global Adjustments. It was inspired when Mr. Murthy launched Global Indian, an e-learning portal that we had set up in 2007 in Singapore. And he said to me, and it was his inspirational words, which said, there is no time better in history than now for India to adapt with the world. And then we began to think, we have worked with the world in our own small way for these years. Can we take those real life anecdotes and put them into a book which can be available as a manual of self-improvement or self-guidance? I'll tell you just one little story and then leave you with that thought. When BMW was coming into India, we were very keen to try to get that business to help German families to settle in India. They went to 13 different states to decide where to set up. And we were told the chairman of the board was coming in his private jet, and we had to look after Dr. Reithofer and in 2 hours give him a quick synopsis of Indian business culture. And so here I was, rather nervous, and I was asked to practice every minute to minute of the schedule because German timing and precision was very important. So I took the time to practice along with the German team that had come with BMW. And there were 6 BMWs lined up to try to get into with him, and he was at that time exploring Chennai as an option. As you know, later BMW did set up their factory in Chennai. And when Mr. Reithofer came, principle number 1, he said, I don't want any of these. Can I get into a bus with you so that I can really see this city? And that was my first lesson. The higher up they go, the simpler they are. It's connected to my association with Mr. Murthy too. For the asking, he supported whatever little venture that I did with the book. The second lesson, after he got in the bus and we showed him around the city, there was an opportunity where we could show him the temples. He had never been to India before, and talk about the secular existence of India despite 80% of us being Hindu. And then I said to him, so how come you as a German are so, sort of not looking at hierarchy, Dr. Reithofer? And he said, well, what is hierarchy after you have read Who Am I? So Who Am I is Ramana Maharishi's book, and he had read it in German back in Bavaria. And so the world seemed, second lesson, the world seems to be not stereotypical assumptions at all. The German understands Indian philosophy, and it's time for the Indian to speak up for himself. Last lesson, we dropped him back at 1:59, 1 hour 59 minutes, and I pointed out to him, Dr. Reithofer, they'd given me 2 hours to do this program with you. I brought you back in 1 hour 59 minutes. In the evaluation, he said, it's a good idea to work with this company. They have a sense of time. And that lesson number 3 for me was, if you do something that resonates with the culture, don't hesitate to point it out to them that you've actually understood their value and done what they appreciate. So once I said that about the timing, I think there were 4 people in the running that BMW was going to choose, but we actually got chosen as the preferred vendor to help move their company people and to do intercultural communications with them. So with that personal story, it's my deep privilege and honor to invite Doctor. I have to say that 25 times because he has been given nothing less than 25 honorary doctorates from Indian and universities abroad. Dr. Narayana Murthy to the stage. Please address us, sir.
I'm indeed very grateful to you and your colleagues for inviting me here today. As the world is becoming more and more globalized, and as our interactions extend beyond national boundaries, cultural intelligence becomes extremely important. Therefore, this book, in my opinion, is a very powerful instrument to help every one of us become a global Indian. A book like this will therefore be very useful in getting to understand the nuances of other cultures. I have no doubt at all that reading a book like this, understanding the messages of a book like this, I believe that we Indians can indeed handle 3 or 4 major adjustments, cultural adjustments we have to make. And they are, I list this from the experience of 130,000 Infosians. One, we are perhaps the most thin-skinned nation in the world. We see insults where none is meant. We get upset very easily. We think that somebody is out to make India look bad. We think that somebody is out to make us look bad. That's not true. I mean, I interact with Germans, with English, with French, with Americans, Canadians, Japanese, Chinese, Australians, Middle East people, Africans, and Latin Americans every month, without exception. But I can tell you one thing, that when people make a remark, when people give you an honest feedback, they are limiting into that particular transaction. They're not passing a judgment on our culture, they're not passing a judgment on us, just that we have to become a little bit more broad-minded, a little bit more thick-skinned, understand the lesson like Ranjini pointed out. The second attribute or second cultural aspect of Indians that we need to look at very deeply and make some adjustment is we as a culture are very uncomfortable in facing unpleasant situation. This is not just Indian, this I believe is an Asian phenomenon. Many other Asian nations have this issue. Therefore, when a project gets delayed, we are most uncomfortable about communicating that news to the client. When I have not completed the task to the satisfaction of my boss, I just don't want to communicate this to him or her, and I keep postponing it. This is what, in my own experience, I have found in some way exasperates our Western clients. They all want us to confront that difficult situation and bring the bad news to the table early and proactively. This is something that we have to learn. The third cultural adjustment that we have to make is being very honest in our promises. As a culture, somehow we don't want to say no, as I talked about earlier, and if my client says, can you jump from the 95th floor? I would say yes. I wouldn't think for a minute, can I really do it? Will I be alive after that? Will I break my legs? Nothing. So I think it is very, very important for us to be very honest. The fourth one, I mean there are many, but I'll just talk about only 4. The fourth one is, as Rudyard Kipling once said, a Westerner can be friendly without being intimate, whereas an Easterner tends to become intimate without being friendly. I mean, I can give you hundreds of examples. For example, about 10 years ago, I was on a train going to Mantralaya, which is a pilgrimage center about 400 kilometers from Bangalore. And I got onto the train in Bangalore, and I was sitting, and opposite me there was a young man sitting. He started talking, I started talking, and then he asked my name, he asked what I do, where I work, you see, which as Ranjini has pointed out, you shouldn't ask what do you do, where do you work. It's so much better to start a soft conversation talking about other issues. But anyway, he asked. And the moment, which was about, it took about 2-3 minutes, they came to know that I was the chairman of Infosys. He said, look, I used to work I work in this corporation in Karnataka state government, and will you please speak to my MD to get me a transfer from place A to place B? I mean, this is not what you would do. This is really demanding a certain level of intimacy before you have reached that level of friendship. I mean, I can give, probably I could co-author a book with Ranjini on these examples. But the reality is simply this, that let's become more open-minded. Let's learn from these wonderful books. Let's become more self-confident. Let's not assume that the whole world is out to insult us. And let's also learn to communicate bad news early and proactively, because these are extremely required for professional success. Well, I'm extremely grateful to be part of this function, and I thank Ranjini and her colleagues for this opportunity. Thank you very much. Bye.